Mayor's Council meeting. We're just going to start with adoption of the agenda, and this will include a revised report on the ride hailing. If I can get a motion for that. Second. All those in favor, opposed, carried. And we'll move to approval of our minutes from our last meeting. All those in favor, opposed, carried. I'm now going to pass it off to our Executive Director, Mike Buda, to preside over the election of chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is the election for the 2020 Mayor's Council Chair and Vice Chair. It's a one-year term. Our bylaws state that the election happens at the last regular meeting of the year for the next year. So this is actually for the chair starting on January 1st. The nomination for the office of chair is now open. Are there any nominees or nominations?
I'd nominate our current chair, Mayor Jonathan Cote.
Great. Mayor, do you consent to this nomination?
I do.
Are there any additional nominations? Are there any additional nominations? There being no further nominations, may I have a motion to close nominations? By acclamation, Mayor Cote is elected Chair of Mayor's Council for 2020. Would you like to address the Mayor's Council regarding your...
Well, thank you very much. Really appreciate the support around the table. I think we had an incredibly busy year last year and some really challenging issues to work forward. But 2020 is going to be the same. So if we thought we had fun last year, just wait till 2020. So really appreciate continuing to work with the group and advancing the work we're doing on the Mayor's tenure plan. So I'm now going to preside over the election of the Vice Chair, and I will now open it up to any nominees for Vice Chair. Mayor Booth?
I'd like to nominate Mayor Jack Froese.
Mayor Froese, do you accept the nomination?
Yep.
I'll open it up. Are there any other nominations for the Vice Chair? Not seeing any. I guess procedurally...
you can call for a motion to close.
If I can get a motion to close the nominations. All those in favor, opposed, carried. And now I'd love to give Mayor Froese the opportunity to deliver his...
Well, thank you, Mayor Cote. Seeing as how you only took about 2 minutes, I can take the other 35 and give my speech. But no, just thank you very much. It's been an amazing journey to work with Mayor Cote as chair and vice chair, and sitting on the board of TransLink, going through some of those issues that they go through, and really bringing a voice to the TransLink board from the mayors, I think is really important, and I really appreciate doing that. We've done a lot in the last year, the Clear Congestion campaign. We're going to continue that. We're going to continue to work for funding for all the transportation that we have to build in the future, and it's going to take all of us working together. And I just want to thank you for your confidence in both of us to continue in this position. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Froese. Okay, we're now going to move on the agenda to the public delegate presentations. Our first speaker this morning is Roderick Lewis.
Mike, you going to put your clock up?
I am. There you go.
I'm glad you guys are all in a good mood this morning. Good morning. As part of the coming year's duties, I'm requesting that this council will expeditiously vote to direct staff, TransLink staff, to prepare a report on the feasibility and potential benefits of having the South of Fraser SkyTrain line, or lines plural, built pursuant to a public-private partnership method similar to what was used for the Canada Line. The Canada Line, as some of you may know, was funded approximately 50% by the private sector. The construction costs were. Using that formula, it's reasonable to assume that the currently available $1.6 billion to pay for the Surrey to Langley SkyTrain line, which is estimated to cost $3.1 billion, $1.6 billion of public funds would be sufficient to pay for that line in its entirety if matched by an equivalent amount of private sector funds. You all have fiduciary and ethical responsibilities to ensure that public monies are being used responsibly, and at the same time to ensure that there is equity in development, economic development opportunities for both the north of Fraser and the south of Fraser. Without SkyTrain lines and a SkyTrain line network that's equivalent to the extensive SkyTrain line network north of the Fraser, the south of the Fraser subregion is going to be continually doomed to being a cesspool of crime and drug violence and lack of economic development, thereby putting the onus on you all to task staff immediately with preparing a report on the feasibility and potential benefits of having the south of Fraser SkyTrain lines built as a separate network, a public-private partnership funded network. 2 lines could be built at the same time, and if the King George line proposed was built at the same time as the Surrey to Langley line, I suggest to you strongly that you will task staff with assessing whether the line could be repurposed, the existing line, this portion of the Expo line that runs through Surrey, repurposed to operate as a line that uses trains powered by regular electric engines rather than linear induction engines as the Expo line uses, and have the entire south of Fraser SkyTrain line network running on trains potentially that are not using linear induction motor technology and instead use regular electric engine technology, such as what the Canada line uses. My 3 minutes are up in about 5 minutes, so I'll keep on talking. That's
I'm not sure
probably
that's
not
how
the
this
best
works,
humor.
but if you do
Are
want to
there
make
any
a concluding remark.
Okay. Please show the backbone and the interest and caring for your tax-paying and other residents, constituents, and have the report that I've requested to be commissioned into the potential benefits and viability of having the south of Fraser SkyTrain line a separate network from the north of Fraser lines, and one that is paid for half by the private sector via a public-private partnership method similar to the Canada line. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank
And
you
happy
very much,
Christmas to you all.
Roderick Lewis, for your comments. Our next speaker is Benjamin Corbett.
Good morning, mayors. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Okay. Good morning, mayors. Thank you for the opportunity to speak here today. I'm a second-year civil engineering student at UBC living in North Vancouver, and I'm here to speak in favor of item 3.1, that is a regional model for a regional business license for ride-hailing. This is important to me because it's important that we can access ride-hailing services in every corner of this region. We want to make sure that when people take the last SkyTrain home after a night out, that they're able to get a safe ride home from the last stop on the system, even if there's no more buses. And it's important that these benefits are shared in all corners of the region, and that might be difficult if every municipality has its own separate license for ride-hailing. In addition, I think it's important that TransLink, or a similar body that has the authority to implement specific charges for congestion or other models to mitigate the potential congestion generated by ride-hailing, are important features to be included in this license, specifically because we want to make sure that people who rely on public transit going through some of the most congested parts of the city, or people who have to make deliveries, or even the people in the ride-hailing vehicles themselves, are not slowed down by the increased congestion generated by all of the ride-hailing vehicles. And of course, many municipalities and the region as a whole have set goals to move more towards sustainable modes of transportation, including 50% of trips region-wide on cycling, walking, and transit. So it's important that this regional license contributes to those goals by helping facilitate connections between ride-hailing and transit, as opposed to policies that would allow for ride-hailing to generate more congestion thereby increasing costs on the transit system and everyone else. So yeah, again, to reiterate, please adopt a regional intermunicipal business license for ride-hailing and work to ensure that the benefits of ride-hailing are spread throughout the region. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your comments, and we will be discussing this item momentarily, so appreciate you taking the time to join us today. So we're now going to move to item 4.1 on the agenda, which is approaches to regional coordination of ride-hailing. There is an on-table report. It is, for the most part, still consistent with the approaches outlined in the report already out in the public, but it does speak to us moving and having a greater urgency to be able to address the regional approach. And I think this really speaks to input we're receiving both from the public and also the provincial government in terms of what needs to happen here. So I'm wondering if staff can kind of go over the report, particularly highlighting the differences in the revised report that is being presented to the body today.
Thank you, Chair.
Sorry, and just for those in the audience, there's copies of this report just outside the glass doors there, and I'll put the recommendations on screen when we get to them.
Thank you, Chair. So yes, we have roughly a 2.5-page supplement report that reflects the kind of urgency that's evolving around this file. The key differences compared to what was in your public package is really around the near-term actions and an expedited approach. Mike Buda will put the recommendations up on the screen towards acting on this. The catalyst for this is over the last several days. Understandably, a number of municipalities have been bringing forward different bylaws associated with the business licensing for ride-hailing. This is, in fact, starting to create a patchwork approach